the million decisions that you make as you train and as you prepare. That's refining your mind and refining the speed of decisions and training you to react quickly and getting lots of repetitions in safe environments, where you make mistakes and you get that feedback. And you have to build that confidence. They call it violence of action. You can go left, you can go right, but you definitely got to go one direction. You can't stop in the middle and think about it. Sometimes you just have to act.
Love good stories. Welcome to Barbell Shrugged. My name's Anders Varner. That's Doug Larson on my left, Lieutenant Colonel Kerns from the U.S. Air Force. Dude, this is so cool. We met you last year. I have to tell you a funny story about meeting you. Last year, we did a 2-hour-long podcast outside. We don't ever drink on the show, and I say drink very loosely. We had 2 beers over a 2-hour period, which equates to 0 in blood alcohol content. However, we were freezing our butts off outside talking to Hunt, the sheriff. I just called him by his Instagram handle. Hunter McIntyre, because he went to the CrossFit Games and all that stuff this year, and he was training for it, making a big push. And we hadn't eaten in 5 hours. We came in, and I think Joe DeSana was like, "You guys have to meet." And we were like, "We have to eat. I can't talk right now." But you had so many good stories, and you were so amped on everything that's going on in the Air Force, so I'm really stoked that we actually get to sit down and make this thing legit.
Let's do it.
So you rolled all the way in. We're at Spartan. The Spartan World Media Fest. Bring it up closer to your face. This is the part where Doug touches. Oh, here you go. This is the real problem. There it is.
How's that?
Spartan World Media Fest here. We're actually at our Airbnb. This is the coolest part about having the Airbnb is we get to invite all the people here. We're contributing to the Media Fest, yet we're taking people away.
That's right.
You rolled in. What'd you see going on? You're running the race with us tomorrow?
I am, yes.
It's pretty exciting stuff.
Yeah. The best way to really make those enjoyable is to not train for them very well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then it's just even more fun.
I think spending a lot of time on the road, we were just talking about how you barely know where home is.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Travel a lot, train a little, and you got it.
Yep.
Tell me a little bit about what's going on in the Air Force. Special ops specifically. Don't we all at some point get into fitness a little bit because we see special ops movies?
I totally did.
I'm going to do 1,000 push-ups. What brought you into taking this path in life?
Yeah, well, it was a bit just kind of always finding that toughest road. Pretty much every fork in the road, every opportunity, we'll just try and find what the hardest way to go was. And I always saw that when I was challenged beyond my abilities, that I had to rise up. I had to overcome. I had to set priorities. I had to, often when it was way too much, and that was often when I felt God's hand kind of pushing me through these tough things. So it was pretty much every major life decision was kind of like, okay, what's the suckiest thing I can see? What's the toughest thing I can imagine? And let's give it a shot. And if I can, push through that, then I'll get better and keep looking for that next thing.
Did this come up as when you were a kid?
It did, yeah.
Because I felt like I was just playing sports out in the front yard. You're looking for really hard stuff to do.
Yeah, I mean, way young, a friend and I were just, we would go bouldering and stuff. It was like, okay, where's the easy? Okay, let's do the toughest way.
Yeah.
I just and fall and
Where'd you grow up?
Back up again. All over, but not a military brat as they call it. Missouri, Florida, Nebraska, Spain for a couple of years.
Cool. Pretty well rounded.
The desire to kind of take the hard road or the toughest path, was that like a competitive thing where you wanted to just take the hard road and kind of just show everyone you could do it, to kind of raise yourself up and let other people know that you're a bad motherfucker? Or was that what was the underlying drive for always picking the hard road?
Yeah, it's kind of a weird thing because often people say you got to be a meteor, you got to be the type A personality, you got to be the toughest in the room. It tells everybody the toughest in the room, and I thought that was the model. I thought I had to be that. So I was always drawn to these things, but not so much in the competitive realm. It wasn't the competition wasn't against the other people; it was against myself. And so, even early in my career, I thought, every model was you got to be in charge and always, fighting for that. And I'm just like, man, I don't have that drive against other people. Like I don't have to feel like I'm crushing somebody else. It's just against myself. Like how tough can I be? Which like I loved wrestling because it was an awesome team sport and everyone was fighting together. But then it came down to it was just you.
Yeah.
And how hard you trained and it was just that single accountability of knowing that everything you did to prepare for it was everything you brought to that mat.
Yeah. The hard work that goes into wrestling, is that something that's kind of been with you your whole life? Like that's a serious grind for a sport. You're basically operating at the highest athletic potential that you have and starving yourself at the same time.
Yeah.
Were you always, I mean, you're chasing that difficulty in the bouldering and all that, but I guess coming out of high school, is that something you looked for and trying to pick a path?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, just like I said, I had a love-hate relationship with wrestling, and I
feel like everybody does.
I hate, and I was like, I hate everything about wrestling, and I'm not really sure what the love part was, but I just kept doing it.
There was
love
life
somewhere.
Lessons, I'm sure.
It's just, it was that challenge it always went through, and so it just. It kind of unfolded, every step of the way. I went to the United States Air Force Academy, because that was by far the toughest education I could ever, see. And I knew there was no way I was smart enough to get into it. So I was like, all right, there's a lot of colleges to choose from. Clearly, I can't make it at that one. So if I can, then that's there's a higher hand on my life pushing me through that. Yeah. And then I struggled every day. I felt like an idiot every single day. My head just crushed to the ground under all the academics and just not smart enough to push through, but just kept grinding through it. And then after that, then I was okay, now what? And then that's when I first found out about special operations. And didn't even know about it till I first saw that one red beret walking by. I was like, oh, who's that guy?
Did you always feel a desire to serve?
I had it in my mind a little bit, but it was it was kind of interesting. It wasn't the passion. It wasn't like a driving passion. Often some people say it was like that 9/11 moment, but for me it was really just kind of seeking that best path, that most difficult thing, and then luckily that was recognizing that was serving my country and those opportunities.
Why did you choose the Air Force? There's clearly multiple options and multiple paths that you can take, but choosing the Air Force.
Yeah. There's I put a lot of thought to many things in my life, and sometimes it's just luck and circumstance. I was actually a mentor sent me his graduation announcement to the Air Force Academy, and I said, wow, that's so cool. Based just on that, I know where I want to go to school. And he gave me good advice. He said, actually, it needs to be based on, what the girl-to-guy ratio is of the college, how cool the mascot is, things like that. That's
what I chose.
Yeah.
That was my choice, 70-30.
Yeah.
60-40. Those are good numbers.
Yeah. He said, in which case, this is the wrong choice. But, again, that's where I just started learning about the challenge and fighting through those things. So.
Where is the college at?
Colorado Springs.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
What is a little bit of that? I actually don't know anything really about going to school specifically to serve. What does the academy look like?
Yeah. So there's service academies for every branch.
Yeah.
And you have to get a congressional nomination to go there.
That was the problem.
Yeah.
That's why it didn't happen.
Right. Yeah. And you get like a presidential nomination or a congressional, and then you also you can play sports as well. And sometimes if your academics are good enough, and then they want you on sports, and they kind of sponsor you in that way. So yeah.
Nice. Did you play sports there?
I did, yeah. My freshman year, I played football, and then I walked on the lacrosse team.
Sweet.
And I did that till I got too many concussions, and they said, "Stop getting hit in the head, or you can't commission to be an officer." So I said, "Okay, I didn't come here for this, so I'll stop. I'll switch to powerlifting."
Going from wrestling to football is not an easy transition. Well, like, what did your training look like back in the day? Because I guess wrestling is that's just grueling, grinding. I love saying starving yourself because it's kind of like that, but also kind of not. But then going into football, you're a pretty thick dude right now. I imagine you look more like today than you did wrestler guy when you were playing football.
Yeah, I didn't. I was fortunate. I had a good the other guys in my team, so I didn't have to cut weight too much. But yeah, I played. I was the 3-sport varsity athlete since I was a freshman. So I just went through from one season to the next, and the endurance just help push you through each sport to the next.
Was Alan Hendrick your strength coach when you were playing football?
Yeah.
Look at that, Doug Larson dropping names.
Wow.
Damn.
What was that like? What was training for football under Allen like? Because I have a lot of respect for that guy. I used to look over his programs growing up and whatnot.
Yeah. Just incredible challenge, just like everything else up there. Just the professionals that you had to have, because just with the academics that were incredibly tough, and then so your brains are kind of beat to mush, and then be able to cross that line and then go down and just be all about the sport and kind of let all those kind of like the military side of things, the academics to the side, and just go hit people.
I mean, you're in college, but you're also in the military kind of at the same time. Like, is there required physical readiness test type of thing, like for people that are in the Air Force Academy? And like, is there required training that you have to do? This is mostly like a fitness, strength, conditioning podcast. Like, what's the training look like for people that are at the Air Force Academy?
Yeah, so there's anyone in the military has a regular physical fitness test that they have to take. So at the Air Force Academy, that test was a little tougher than the average Air Force test. So it's just calisthenics and run pretty much. But you also add the altitude up there, 7,000 feet. So it's your body definitely has to adapt to that air up there.
Yeah.
Or the lack of air up there.
Do you know if that's changing and evolving? I know a lot of the fitness stuff that the military does has evolved quite a bit over the last 5 or 10 years with the rise of CrossFit and functional fitness and all that. Is it still just mostly running and calisthenics these days?
Actually, there's really crazy changes, and they're drastically going on right now. So that was something. So going through the training for special operations in the Air Force, we were always good at finding that toughest 1 out of 100. But when you need more than when you need 50, you got to figure out a better way to do it. So the crucible, that challenge absolutely always has to be there. But kind of coming to terms of recognizing that, there is that elite, very rare few that will survive absolutely anything, almost under any condition. But then there's us that are on the cusp, that it takes life circumstances kind of can push you one way or the other, and that's that envelope that training really pays off for. So just the Air Force recognizing, the school of hard knocks, like we can do better than that. So you still have that really tough element, but now they can get scientific about it. So actually, one of the major revamps that we're doing just to recognize we need to try and get more folks capable to go through this rigorous training was basically like giving them every opportunity we can to give them that opportunity to succeed. So there's a preparatory course after basic training. It's literally the Olympic level coaches, former Olympians, come to serve and kind of take care of these young military guys as they're first starting out their career in special operations. So they have there's actually like a bandolier of sensors that they wear at all times. So like 12 different sensors on you, tracking your sleep, tracking your heart rate, tracking your perspiration, your heat, and it's running real time to some contractors that have like mobile computers. So as guys are out doing a heavy ruck, big heavy backpacks going off into the wilderness, there's a guy on a truck driving behind with a computer that has every single student with like a pie graph that's showing like how hard they're putting out. And so you can actually, you can see, there is no sandbagging because you literally have every sensor on you, knowing exactly how tough you are. So you can go there and you see, they're all crushing weight out on, awesome, PT pit, and you can see like, okay, there's this dude in the green, like pure green. What in the world is this guy doing? And so you find him and you see him, and he's kind of like sneaking in the corner, just like taking a breath, and he's like acting all, tough. He's like, hey bro, you're not, like we see your heart rate, you're not there. And then the other guy just crushing it, and the getting in the red, and so like over time the crazy thing is so we were just all these taking all these schematics, all these data points the whole way through, and then recognizing what's the most important. One of the most determinants to success is basically the body's ability to bounce back, and so that's like when you first start out. Guys get crushed, and then it takes days. You watch until you can see their stats come all the way back up. Whereas by the end of it, it's literally, you smash them, and then they come back a few hours later, and then just hit it again. And that's that resiliency. Down to like the cellular level that your body has to be able to endure.
When you're going through that training, that's kind of like the training. They're making it hell for you. What does the training look like, kind of in your normal day to day being an airman, though?
Yeah. Well, that's the other awesome part is we with the advance the last 10 years have come light speed. So there's a thing called a preservation of the force and family. So it's an initiative that basically looks at recognizing that we are, they call them human weapon systems. So the way you'd have a fancy fighter jet F-22, millions of dollars you spend into it, that maintenance is an absolute vital part of that. So just recognizing that humans are these awesome molecular machines that we've invested a lot of time and energy into, that we need to maintain. So the way they maintain it is with flight surgeons, clinical social workers, operational psychologists, chaplains, strength coaches, athletic trainers, and that suite of professionals is just there to take care of our special warfare operators. Mm-hmm. And so, it's not like, what do I feel like today? I'm going to do bench again. It's like you have a very, scripted out system with, some of the very hungry, awesome strength coaches that are taking you through and growing that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they're there if you're banged up and you're injured to switch out the movements and give you different programming.
Absolutely.
And to take the day off.
Yeah.
Which I even saying that to someone who's like a special operations person, you seem kind of tired. Why don't you just take the day off? Seems kind of weird, but it's a good idea.
Absolutely. Yeah. They even have these bands, these fitness bands that that they are supposed to wear 24/7, mm-hmm. and so your strength coach is like
what are those bands?
I forget which brand it is. It doesn't have a readout. I can get you that name later, but
is it one of these?
Yeah.
Whoop!
Yeah, whoop!
We work with them. They're awesome.
We're friends with those
we
guys.
like them. We've been up multiple times. We can tell you a lot about Whoop.
Yeah.
They're awesome.
Yeah.
If you go in there, it looks like Facebook for recovery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Will
we're
their
people.
CEO's going to be at dinner tonight.
Oh, nice.
I'd imagine so. We can introduce you if you'd like.
Yeah.
We love those things.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So guys will you'll get benched basically if you didn't sleep, if you weren't doing what you needed to take care of your body to get ready for that next day. The strength coach will say you don't get the alpha workout. You're gonna get a Charlie because I get it, man. You're really busy. You're preparing for a big brief, but your body is not going to respond to the gains, so you have to take a break. And so it's like guys are benched and they know it. It's actually like every aspect of this affects how you perform. And we know that now.
I feel like if you told that to someone that was in the military 40 or 50 years ago, oh yeah, they really get honest about getting enough sleep. They'd be like, what? What are you talking about?
Right.
Total opposite.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like that special operations unit it structures itself in the same way like an athletic department does. Who is? I guess what does that structure look like? Is there like a guy at the top that says, here's the mission, here's the goals, and then it all gets filtered to kind of the SMEs for each individual piece?
Yeah, we have a network of all of our, for at least on the special tactics. That's one kind of element to our Air Force Special Operations. All their strength coaches, they all work together all under the same contract. So they do now have a big boss at the headquarters, that helps them, work on and they have similar certifications and they all hold them to a standard.
Yeah.
And then that strength coach then gives that to all the operators. And they tailor workouts, because you could say, hey, I want to do Spartan races. So that they can tailor that workout for you. And I mean, we're all, keeping that base level fitness, but then, recognizing, hey, this guy wants to run a lot longer. Okay, I'll prep you for that. So it's just absolutely tailored, professional.
Yeah, on top of just general GPP training, strength and conditioning, being healthy, being strong, where has kind of the craziest specialized training taken you? I know that there's you guys go into some hairy situations that you can't just prepare for here in beautiful Tahoe.
Yeah.
This isn't, it's so nice up here. This should be when we're in battle. Where has this kind of taken you, and what are some of the more intense or interesting skills you've had to learn where you're taking the strength and conditioning and putting it into a real life scenario?
That was totally tell me a great story.
Yeah, I want to hear good stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I have a friend that is in special ops, and he was like, yeah, if we want to learn how to, ski because we're going to be really cold and might save our lives, we have to go learn how to alpine ski. And I'm like, oh, that's so awesome. I want to go.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you have to train for every terrain.
It was eloquently asked.
Totally.
You can also say, hey, just tell me your coolest war story. Or whatever it is. Yeah. So
no, not even the war story. I like the training stories.
Yeah. No worries. I got it. So I was actually just talking to a Silver Star recipient, and he was telling me, so this, sorry, it's in the war story part, but
that's fine too.
That's cool too.
Yeah.
So he was telling me he got hit, and he was, he said the time stopped, and all of a sudden the ground came smashing into him, and he hit down, and then he realized, that then he was trying to get back up and realized that his legs were, pretty hard hit. But then he can, after he recognized, he looked, he's okay, yeah, I don't want to look at that anymore. So he just kept fighting. So his friends were, working on his legs while he continued to fight, and then do the close air support that brought in all the fighters and the bomber aircraft to be able to push off the ambush. So as he's like fighting through that was just my question. That's never, obviously we never injure guys, like so where where do we get that? And the crazy thing is it's I guess asymmetric training, it comes to it. So one of the things that's really big to special Air Force Special Operations is water confidence. And so there's always like, well, I'm not fighting in the ocean right now. Why are we putting each other through such stress? But basically, I mean, like the human desire to breathe is a very strong desire.
You need air.
It's
definitely needed.
Yeah, it's pretty important.
Yeah.
And so that's like the most instant feedback, where you can, I mean, and that you need it every few seconds.
Yeah.
It's not like food, these things you can kind of push off for a while. So that need for air is a desperate thing. So training your body to come to terms with recognizing that the body doesn't always get what it wants. Sometimes the mind has to overcome it. And so the best way to do that is in water confidence. So there's all kinds of really painful, just different drills that we do. One of them is buddy breathing. So it's you and a buddy lock arms and you're forehead to forehead and you're passing the snorkel back and forth. And every time you pass it, it fills with water. So you have to, when you get it, you clear it and you blow out and then you can take a breath. Super simple, right? But then you get attacked.
Yeah.
So then now there's
Until someone punches you underwater.
Right. Yeah. So then cadres start mangling you and pushing you back together and capping your breath. And so you blow out air and then they cap it and you can't breathe again, and they're going to hold their hand until you pass it to your buddy, seeing if you can be altruistic and like, okay, it's his turn, take care of my friend. And so like that can just get, your heart rate starts screaming high, you're voraciously just tearing through oxygen and you're not getting any more. And so you're having to come into terms with like, okay, can I freak out? What do I, can I, how do you respond? And so it's like over time you learn to master your body and control that even something as core and essential as air, that you train your body to like, I have to have a higher purpose. I have to understand there's more important things than everything my body is screaming at me right now. And so you even get, obviously this isn't the point, but you get guys that they call them shallow water blackouts. So they will go underwater as far as they can until the point where they stop, they don't breathe and they pass out. So there's safeties and everyone that and you're constantly monitored. So you're not supposed to take it to that point. You're supposed to recognize the point 2 seconds before that and then be efficient to make it through. But all that just like trains your body to be able. So I mean, if you can train a human to even not breathe, that type of resiliency and mental mastery can come through really painful situations and everything else.
Is that also teaching you how to stay calm under extreme stress? Like, so you're all of a sudden just firefight breaks out and you're just like totally ambushed, like you're not just like fucking tunnel vision freaking out, like you're able to like slow everything down a little bit, assess the situation, and not have a panic attack.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean that's the other crazy thing is you spend so long training and prepping for this day and going through all this water confidence, all these things, that finally the first time I got shot at, I was excited. Like it was like
I'm ready for this.
It's finally
that guy tried to kill me.
and I mean it's so surreal. You're like, it's on. Okay, all right, yeah, no, I'll just do it. Let's do it. And obviously that situation was more benign, than other intense ones. So there's definitely fear on the battlefield, no doubt. But sometimes just because you've rehearsed it and practiced so many times over and over that finally when it's your opportunity to do what you've been trained to do for so many years, you rise up and you're ready for it.
Was there a single piece of the training that you struggled with a lot? I imagine underwater training for many people is probably the hardest part, just because we're on land 99% of our day, and then you get into water and it gets freaky.
Yeah. So I've always been a bigger dude, and so there'd be some guys coming straight out of high school, so 18-year-old, 140 pounders, just running circles around me, and I was 200-pound Bubba, so I already have a rucksack on without having anything on. So running was always a challenge for me. So I had to train twice as hard to keep up. So I had failed. So I was going through the pre-scuba where you do the bulk of all the water confidence stuff, and I failed my 6 mile run by 3 seconds. And that meant I had to go all over again, start the whole course all over again. It was a 7-minute mile. So
yeah,
7-minute mile for 6 miles.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
You got to do 6 of them.
Right. Yeah. So I failed, and I had to start all the way over again. So running was hard, and then that's the biggest kick in the stomach. Just have to start all over. And that was by far the worst training in the pipeline, because you're doing water confidence, things like that. And then I had one day where I just went bad. Like I was taking trying to get a breath full of air, and I got a breath full of water, and start coughing and sputtering, and then sharks in the water, they smell blood, and so then all the cadre start attacking you, and so then I lost my mind. I was just and like scrambling and letting go of my buddy, which is cardinal sin, and just like trying to scramble anywhere, and then they're just higher and higher heart rate, and then there's no way, if you had pure 100% oxygen, you still would freak out on it. So I had a horrible day, and I had to go, then the next day was a whole nother day of training. And so I learned such a huge, powerful lesson on fear, because I was just deathly afraid of going back into that again, where, I was like, oh man, I failed. How am I it's going to get even harder tomorrow, and just like the whole world just mounts up on you all at once. It's not that next second, it's that, the next year. If I fail this again, I'll have to do this course all over again. I'll fail. I'll get booted. All these things. And so, as I was dealing with that fear, I was trying to assuage myself with normal coping techniques. Like, it won't be that bad. It's okay. There's a medic. You'll be fine. And I kind of came to the realism. I'm like, wait a minute. Like, I'm scared now, but I don't actually have to be. But one day I will be scared. One day there will be people trying to kill me.
Yeah.
And what am I going to do then? Am I going to say, oh no, he doesn't really want to kill me?
There's a medic on the other side of the pool.
Nope.
This is real life.
It'll be safe. I can call knock it off and go home. No, it's going to be. It will be a life and death battle. And so that was where I was like, man, I got to embrace this fear. I got to accept this fear. I understand that this is real, and I'm scared to death, and that's it. Let's do it. I'm not going to run away from it. I'm not going to hide from it. I'm going to use the fear for what it is to make me sharper, and just take that next second at a time. And so that's so much during the training is, it's not the next year, it's not the next day, it's just this next minute. Do everything you can to get through this, to that next rest or whatever it is, that next step, to just keep pushing through, and don't let the whole mountain overwhelm you.
It's a really crazy thing, because you have to develop you're confronting fear and then building a relationship with it, because no matter what you do in training, you have to prepare yourself that in the real world it's going to be worse.
Yeah.
Like how do you kind of rationalize that, and how do you grow the confidence in yourself to know no matter what I'm doing in practice right now, there's real lives at stake on the battlefield?
Yeah. I think just the little core lessons that you're taught, every one of these exercises is focusing on that the higher purpose. It's often about your buddy. It's about taking care of the guy next to you, and focusing on that helps you get out of yourself, because so much of human suffering is it brings your tunnel vision, brings you into yourself and your own individual suckfest. And as you become overwhelmed by your emotions and your feelings and your pain and your suffering, and you can lose sight of everything else around you. And so it's those moments you got to take those breaths, open up the aperture, and then look, there's a dude right next to you, and he's going through the exact same thing, and maybe he actually needs you more. Maybe he's in a worse spot. So then reaching out, taking care of him, then you're like, okay, my problems aren't that big a deal. And it's just that okay, what's that next concrete action, that next thing I can do, the finite action, instead of just being overwhelmed by, I don't know where to go or what to do. It's just okay, concrete, okay, he needs help. All right, let's help him out. One step at a time.
That's also an interesting skill, to be able to understand what is a necessity, what is the next actionable thing that you can be doing. What I guess in the training process, is that in a classroom of, there's a million options, and one of the options is freak out.
Yeah.
Like be terrified, and that's going to end up poorly. Is there like a classroom side of this thing of here are options and making quick decisions like that?
Yeah, I mean, well, there's something just simple called the priorities of work. So just like any time you're doing a mission, like there's just different elements of things you have to take care of first. Just self-care kind of as you process through those things.
With the rise of helmet cams and chest cams, things like that, is training in the military similar to like college football? Like you watch film like every day, like learn the plays of the other team. Like, is there a lot of studying film, so to speak, in the military these days?
Yeah. So there's actually back to telling you about the operational psychologist dedicated just to the operators. We had one op psych that he was embedded in a part of the team, like a trusted agent. You knew he cared about you. It wasn't something that you're like, oh, avoid that guy because he'll write you up and get you in trouble. He was truly a brother, and cared about making you better and helping you working through it. So he would do us. So when we would go through, so we have different simulators. The air traffic control simulator, where it's like 180 degree screens all around you, and you're controlling all the airplanes. And you have to say the right phraseology to keep them moving and tell them when to land and all those things. So those can get really stressful as you get behind and different things don't respond. So they, again, like those bandolier sensors, they tag you with all those in this cognitive high functioning requirement scenario. And so now as you're going through this performance, you're actually getting readouts on your stress level, on your heart rate, respiration, all these things. And so he's watching you the whole time as you're going through this process and giving you that feedback. So like, oh, you just messed up a call, now you're stressed out, now you just messed up another call, okay, now you're in the hole, now what are you going to do? And watch that heart rate skyrocket. And so then you can actually debrief and go back through the tape and say, okay, yeah, at this point it took you a good 10-12 minutes to get back under control with this stuff. And so then he comes back and intervenes and say, okay, next time, all right, so you just misstep, now what are you going to do? Take that quick recovery breath, take a second, look around, okay, and then giving you those like coaching techniques. So that's real time, with the high specifics of the technical knowledge of doing the job, and then bringing that biofeedback into it.
Mm-hmm. If you're a 12-year-old kid listening to this right now, and like you've watched all the Navy SEAL movies and all that, and you're like, fuck yeah, I'm going to the military, I'm doing special operations, like I want to go into battle.
Yeah.
Like, do you have any suggestions for someone that has that desire, that's still pretty young and has a couple of years before they're going to the Air Force Academy or joining the military?
Yeah. So leadership is an important thing. Teamwork, vital every step of the way. Like being a part of a high functioning team, doing everything you can to take care of the brothers and sisters next to you is just a skill you learn, and it's an attitude that you have that. We even see it now. So that was one of the struggles we had in the recruiting effort. Is we would think like, okay, physical fitness, it's all about physical. Find the toughest dude out there, and you find tough dudes that would quit day 2, and it was like that because that guy had never failed before. He had never come to the end of himself and had to find a higher purpose because he succeeded at everything. And so you need that failure in your life. You need to challenge yourself to the point of beating your head against that rock and getting knocked down. And okay, now what are you gonna do? Everything doesn't go well. There's so many factors against you. So how do you keep getting up and keep fighting again?
Yeah.
So grit.
Grit,
that type of thing is like the biggest character trait to attempt to develop.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You've mentioned multiple times the brotherhood. I think that's something that the military, especially special ops people, they always come back to. Is that forged kind of in the training process, just the experiences you go through? Just when did that really kick in for you and realizing, wow, this is family out here. Like I rely on these people for living every day.
Yeah. I mean, it's every step of the way as you endure and go through those shared challenges and shared struggles, and it can become a lonely road, when you're dealing with things that most of the populace doesn't have to deal with. So that brotherhood is just tight, just because you understand one another, you understand what you've gone through, and that like transcends kind of combat,
Yeah.
So anymore, like talking to a Vietnam vet, like I understand the words that they're saying. I didn't experience war in any way what they did, but I know the feelings, and you can kind of draw that out with one another because you have that shared experience. So I mean, it's every step of the way all through the training.
You mentioned loneliness. Is it strange not being able to talk to your family about what you do?
Yeah, it's kind of funny. A lot of guys, like, you can talk a lot about what you do.
Yeah.
Like, you can the general principles of things, and sometimes that's sometimes it's kind of a negative compartmentalization, where you keep your so for me, like, my family, my wife knows everything, like, obviously there's classified documents that I don't share with her, but she understands the human aspect of everything that I go through. And that's vital. I mean, we just recognizing, hearing some tragedy stories of guys that went through trauma and emotional, mental trauma, and didn't get help, didn't reach out, just started taking, again, that own private suckfest, just bringing them into themselves and not getting that help, not expressing, to work through those things. So to me, it's been absolutely just vital every step of the way to keep, my loved ones as informed as possible, to help me process through it. It's a teamwork, it's a partnership. Your spouse is there to lift you up and help you through those tough things. So that for me, I always reach out and talk to her through those challenges.
Anytime I meet somebody that's in special ops, they're always they're some of the best people. Like, they've been humbled enough, they've lived enough, they know, let's just be good people, and they're just great individuals. But there's also, like, the side of, like, you are in war, you're in battle, and it's life and death out there. Being a dad and having a family, is there a conversation about kind of like that side of it with you? I have never been in a situation like that, so I wonder if I was talking to my daughter and kind of explaining what I do, it would be a very intense thing that I would have to think about the wording and how I deliver that message.
I did a lot of thought of this as I was in combat in Afghanistan, and I had a really long mission, and the whole mission through. So we were going on a presence patrol, and we were hoping the bad guys would come get us, so that we could fight them, because fighting an insurgency, they can be a civilian and a happy good citizen one day, and the next day they can try and blow you up, and they can be the same person. It's just they decide when they want to fight. So you have to kind of fish them out a little bit. So I spent, that whole mission just looking for an enemy to destroy. Like, I was there to fight the bad guy. And so I was actively hunting, another human every step of the way. And so, and we got in combat and dropped a lot of bombs and took out lots of bad guys and came home. And then, it's time for me to start journaling and writing, little love letters to my wife. And so I'm like, these fingers that were just, ready to end a life is now communicating love passionately to my wife. And which is it? Am I a warrior and a killer, or am I a lover and husband? And just recognizing that, like, I am all those things, and I'm all those things together simultaneously. And that's like there's you come to terms with that. You understand that you're doing your job, you're doing your duty to the best of your ability. The same way I love my wife, as much as I can, and those things are not one or the other. It's not, I don't do one in hate and one in love. Like, those are both ultimately, to serve my brothers next to me, to take care of my country, to fight bad guys that are doing evil things across the world. And those are all kind of seeming, together a lot closer. And so for me, I mean, that's maybe one of the ways I'm able to be resilient is I've come to terms with that. Like, I don't feel guilty for those things, because I'm all my body and my mind and soul, like, are all aligned to do that mission.
Do you feel like it makes you, in a way, it makes you better because you understand how important it is to have good relationships that can be taken away instantly while you're out there? Do you feel like there's a piece of you that is a much better dad or husband because you confront evil all the time, and that you have to balance that out, or the pendulum swings back the other way, and you're a much better father, more present, or just because how quickly it can go away?
I think so. I mean, the fragility of life, and you feel that, you see it, and you also, I mean, you got to, when you're doing something that requires a decision that could put your life on the line, like, you're doing that intentionally. You're living a life focused on values and higher priorities and things like that. It's not just I can make a buck, or I can get through this, or
nobody's doing
job,
what you're doing for money.
Right.
Putting your life on the line like that. It's crazy.
And so it's just, I mean, like that's all life. You got to do it for a reason. Like, do it on purpose. That's you're here for a reason on this earth. So know it, own it, and seek it. It's not just whatever happens.
Yeah. When you're on the battlefield, knowing that you have family at home, how does that conversation inside your brain, like you're putting it all on the line, and the other side of it is, Dad may not come home, and that's a very heavy conversation that I would assume happens laying in bed at night when there's nobody around, and just what is the mental conversation when that comes up?
Yeah. So I actually, one of my brothers I had lost in combat, Tech Sergeant William Jefferson, and he was on my team, and I was responsible for allocating forces, deciding where people went. And at one point I had to decide whether or not he would go to this hot fire base where the enemy was attacking every day, or send a younger guy with no family. And I had to come to terms with, who am I going to send to this very hot fire base? And he was the right guy. He was the best guy for it. He had a lot of other skills that we needed to do, and he was a senior guy, non-commissioned officer. And I know, like, if I had given him that choice between sending him or his subordinate, the guy that he was taking care of, he in a second would have done it. Every day he would have done it. Even if he knew what was going to happen, he would have done it, because that's that brotherhood and that sacred responsibility to take care of what you're entrusted with, what's important. And so that was like as we lost him in combat, it was my responsibility to bring him home. And so as I was standing, inside the C-17 with no seats, all slicked out, and they're bringing the flag draped coffin on board. I was very sober to recognize, like, man, I had a hand in this man's life, and it, for good, for bad, for all that, but knowing that, like, all of us know what we're doing, we know what we're getting into. And we chose it, and we chose it to take care of our families, to take care of our brothers, and that's, like, he wasn't a victim in that. Like, he chose to fight in that way, and it was my honor to serve with him and to take care of him everywhere I could, to make sure he was ready to go, and then to take care of him and his family when he needed to be taken home.
When you are going into very dangerous situations like that, the ultimate commitment and sacrifice for your country, are there times where you question, is this the right actual tactical move? Is this the right place that I should be, knowing that you're going into a lot of fire and it's going to be dangerous, and in a way just a little mental piece of, man, this isn't right, and knowing that it's going to get crazy? Like, do you start to doubt any of the higher level thinking of, is this really worth it for me? Is it worth it for my family? And then even on a lower level of each individual battle, and tactically making the right moves, knowing things are about to get wild.
Yeah. That's like the million decisions that you make as you train and as you prepare. That's refining your mind and refining the speed of decisions, and training you to react quickly, and getting lots of repetitions in safe environments, where you make mistakes and you get that feedback, and you do paintball rounds that you get shot with and they hurt really bad, but you learn to fight through those things. So you train to respond to those things, obviously, and you make mistakes. Humans make mistakes all the time, but you have to build that confidence. They call it violence of action. You can go left, you can go right, but you definitely got to go one direction. You can't stop in the middle and think about it. Sometimes you just have to act. Act vigorous. That's the poor, the less conceived plan executed with violence and action immediately can overwhelm the perfect plan executed too late. So that those things, happen real time when it comes to tactical actions, and then kind of the bigger, tougher decisions. Sometimes you just gotta act and move out and kind of deal with it. Sometimes you have to be the actor in the system. Like stop waiting for things to happen, just kind of punch your way through and then make them react to you.
When was your last tour?
It was a year and a half ago.
Are you done officially having or going over?
I go more in command roles now, but now my job this time was to create a recruiting squadron focused just on bringing in special operations. So I got another year to do that.
Do you miss the battlefield?
I miss the brotherhood of just fellow operators, guys that know everything you've been through and you've done it with you.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's crazy, like, because you as you grow and you get stronger in every aspect of your life and leadership, you're ready for that next challenge. And for me, that next challenge, it isn't so much tactical anymore. It's more leadership and organizational wise.
Yeah.
To create something and change something, to change a big whole system, took every ounce of my experience and intelligence to try and fight for a new way to do things. So that was exciting to me. It's not shooting stuff, but it's way tougher.
Yeah.
I think people hear leadership in the military and they think it's the military. Like if I tell someone to do something, they're going to do it because it's the military. But that's not how it happens. I wouldn't think so.
Yeah. I mean, you can tell people to do things and it's wrong, so then they'll do it and it'll jack it up, and it won't have solved anything. And there's a lot of ways to drag your feet, if.
Yeah. So how do the question leads to how do you create buy-in with the guys that you oversee? Like how do you get them to do the things that are required of them without having to like breathe down their neck or micromanage them or double check and that type of thing?
Yeah. So I mean, there's a lot of we're definitely spoiled. Like there's a lot of really high functioning professionals that want to do their job. You don't have to, when they see the value of it, they're going to do it. They don't need anybody over their back because they believe in the cause. So often, it's just giving them that space to be the professionals that they are. Like no one wants to suck at their job. They want to do it well, and especially if it's important, and helping them understand the importance of it is a huge part of that. So I've been very lucky to be a part of things that were important. So they're intrinsically valuable. It's important to go and fight, to be at the hottest fire bases there are and to be excellent at your job. That's not a lot of motivation required in that, just because the thing itself is. And then just on the recruiting side, like helping people understand the downrange impacts. So you asked my last deployment. I was just in an area where we lost some guys, and we lost them because we didn't have enough. There weren't enough rescue people available to kind of take care of things the way that they needed to. And so that was like, I immediately left that situation and then came to the recruiting side and said, hey man, guys, this isn't about numbers and spreadsheets and sales quotas. This is about people downrange in combat that absolutely depend on what you do. And so just helping them understand, like to get their eyes up off the lower lower motivations and onto the higher goal, to recognize, man, there's life and death, and it is important out there.
I'm always blown away when you start to see people at these like extreme edges, whether it's the performance side or I shouldn't say I love watching them, but I'm very interested in watching documentaries like Restrepo, where you start to see human nature at the extremes, right? You've got literally kids going out to battle, facing the most intense situations, and then 3 days where it's just like dead quiet.
Yeah.
No one's talking. It's the extreme boredom that kicks in. Your brain starts messing with you.
Yeah.
First, what is like a day-to-day when you're deployed look like? And then how do you handle some of those moments where it's just so boring and miserable, and the only thing you're stuck with is your own thoughts, and there's a couple guys around you, but they're stuck in the same position? Like, how does a day structure itself, and then, what are you doing in those moments to keep yourself occupied and not in your own head in a way?
Yeah. Oh, there's always awesome deployed gyms. they're like
we train.
Yeah. There's Rocky gyms. I was actually I was out with some other special forces element, and I was visiting the base. I was coming through, and we were visitors, so we're like, we're trying to be like, I don't know what the rules are here. I'm just gonna jack some steel. And so we had music on, but it was a reasonable volume. And a guy walks in like he's the quintessential Navy SEAL, like 80s Navy SEAL. So like high socks, straight out of like the movie Charlie Sheen, and he big old ridiculous mustache, and he comes in and he's like, what's going on in here? Like, what the hell are you doing? I was like, what? And he's like, why is this music so quiet? So he's like, crank that shit up. So he just blasts a bomb. So it's like it's lifting the weights for you. So crush steel is a big one. I also did arts and crafts time.
Nice.
So
there you go.
I took a
little creativity in the mix. I like that.
I actually do paperclip sculptures. So like I actually have like fully flexing like buffaloes.
See, that's the boredom part.
Yeah.
I like that.
I'd come back from a mission and I'd watch, I'd binge watch some long series, and then I'd just play with paper clips. It's kind of chaos and everything all around you, and then you just get that one little micro detail that you can kind of just find peace and control in this little small world. So guys got all kinds of random coping capabilities.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
I like that. I want to see some of the sculptures.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to look at that.
You have pictures you can show us after the show?
Yeah.
Nice. I definitely want to see them. You guys have these massive training programs and everything when you're at home getting prepared to go deploy, but what does training actually look like when you're over there? Are you guys on program? Is it just kind of get it in where you can?
Yeah. So with the physical fitness, like with the advent of those strength coaches, they give you good kits that they send downrange with you, and they continue to give you workouts. So you actually have those workouts that you're getting from your strength coach. It depends on what you're at, like how busy you are, but there's ranges and everything set up out there, so you can continue training. Sometimes you can get better training because sometimes there's less restrictions and less bureaucracy, so you can just get after doing that stuff.
Is getting your own programming from the strength coach, is that for special operations guys, or is that just for everyone that's over there?
More for special operations. Yeah. There's gyms just about every base you go to, and there's they have facilities like that, but the really high end, like tailored professional coach, something that's just afforded and focused on those the human weapon systems, the special warfare operators.
Yeah. In this new role, we talked a little bit, but leading up recruiting specifically for special ops, where I guess kind of how did you find this role, and like what is motivation obviously to build the recruiting class, but is there shortage of special ops people now? Just kind of where's the Air Force at in its recruiting efforts?
Yeah. So actually it's kind of crazy, but the overall health of the American populace is declining.
Yeah.
So there's actually a smaller pool of people that are even eligible to serve in the military, especially with there's a lot of medications that kids are put on real early on that can sometimes be restrictive to military service. So that's a smaller pool. So that's just across the board that you got to recognize. But then the bigger problem for specifically Air Force Special Operations is one of our main kind of core warrior ethoses is the quiet professionalism. So before this was my job, I would never be seen in uniform, and I would never tell anybody what I did because I just wanted to do my job and be left alone.
Yeah.
And so like the end result of that is that no one knows who you are or what you do.
I actually want to know about that. The Navy SEALs are very vocal. I shouldn't say they're very vocal, but they have a very vocal side to them.
Yeah.
I don't know a ton about. You guys are very quiet.
Yep.
Is that built into? Obviously, it's built into the culture, but talk about that. I don't really know how to pose a question outside of I'm very interested in how I haven't really heard a ton about you guys specifically.
Yeah. It's the. It truly is a deep part of our warrior ethos, and it's even just we're self-regulating. Guys, I had a mentor kind of here, because it's my job now, so I talk about it a lot more. And he listened to me talk one time. He's like, it kind of sounds like you're bragging, and I'm like, do you think I'm bragging? And he says, no, I know you're not, but it kind of sounds like you are. I'm like, boss, we've done these things, all of us have done these things, and I have to tell people about it because otherwise they have no idea. And so I was telling you, I was just talking to a Silver Star recipient, and I was interviewing him. I was trying to get him to tell his story, and he was a stonewall. He didn't want to share details about what he did, and so it was the wrong thing. I instead asked him about his friends, and he would tell you all day about the valor and the incredible things that his friends would do, and he did the exact same things and more. He literally said, he's like, "Oh yeah, man, that guy got into it. Silver Star recipient." I'm like, "Bro, you got a Silver Star too."
Yeah.
And but he wouldn't tell you about it because it's just more deeply ingrained. And so it's kind of, I think, like, I don't think we have to change our whole culture into sharing. Like, a few
I don't think
schmucks like me can have to come out and tell people stories.
At no point during this did I at all feel like you were bragging about anything. It really is. It's almost like maybe you guys just in a way do it better, that the culture is deep enough and that the people really do stay quiet.
Yeah. John Chapman just received the Medal of Honor not too long ago, and he was a Air Force combat controller in a battle of Takhar Gar back in Afghanistan, in the heyday kind of the war, and he did absolutely insane and amazing things. And so somebody wrote a book about it, Alone at Dawn. And so I was actually talking to that author who is retired did my job, special tactics officer, and he was kind of coaching me through like how we need to tell our story, and he was still like, man, it's too humble, like it's too quiet, like you can't be subtle about this, like you got to tell the story, and still it pains you, and you're just like, oh, I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
But I mean, so the way he does it, and it's awesome, and so I can talk about him because again, it's not me, and it's
that's what you're good at, talking about your brothers.
Yeah. So what he explained is literally in the history of history of warfare, there has never once been a single force on the battlefield more powerful, more capable of bringing death and destruction and saving lives than Air Force Special Operations, Combat Control, Pararescue Men, Tactical Air Control, like all our brothers. Like, what they bring to the battlefield is insane, because we have to have all the same skill sets of our other brothers, be able to kick doors down, shoot, move, communicate, all those things. But then when things go really bad, the show all comes on that guy that's controlling all the close air support. So he's coordinating multi-million-dollar aircraft, seeing what they see, getting the vision, passing that to the ground force commander, knowing where all the personnel are on the battlefield, seeing that complex picture all in his mind, knowing my friends are here, the people they're responsible for, partner nation are there. The enemy's attacking from this direction. I'm getting shot at. I'm crawling in the dust, and I'm controlling aircraft that are 50,000 feet above me at 7 different stacks of altitude, keeping track of the bomber just came in with this bomb, and then the fighters come in seconds later, deconflicting all that stuff real time. Like, it's absolutely insane the amount of firepower that one Air Force combat controller can wield. And so, like, that's the message. Just like, yeah, man, spec ops across the board are cool, but then there's this one guy that literally controls thousands of pounds of bombs, all with the sound of his voice. Like, that's a badass.
In my perfect day, we're going to come hang out, and you're going to break that all down on film for me, because what you just laid out sounds like a puzzle that I would love to watch happen. And then we're going to do some training, some of the stuff that you guys do in your training. I would love to do that.
Yeah.
If people want to learn more about recruiting, how do they get a hold of you, or where can we send them?
I have got a couple handles, Air Force Special Tactic or Air Force Special Operations, and I can we can provide those at the end. I'll read them all out there. Yeah, there you go. So obviously airforce.com, then / Special Operations. That'll be the best gateway to get to, and you can hear about the different jobs that we have, and then look for us on Instagram and Facebook as well.
Very cool. Airforce.com / Special Ops. Dude, I should have been in the Special Ops. I'm positive of it. I would have been really good at training, and then I would have just melted. Would have been bad. Like, I was just here for the training. I love training. I didn't want to play the game of war.
That's how I got into fitness. I started doing military workouts and realized, I just like working out.
Yeah.
Cool. I'll keep doing that.
Yeah. Hey, man, this has been very, very cool. I really appreciate you. I know that it's not easy for you guys to come out and tell the story of what you guys are doing, and it's probably amongst your friends and brothers probably something that nobody's very comfortable with doing. So I appreciate you coming out. It's been very cool.
Appreciate
Doug
it.
Larson, where can they find you?
You bet. Find me on Instagram at Douglas E. Larson.
Yeah, make sure you guys get over to airforce.com/special ops. Just really cool stuff that you guys are working on. I'm very happy to get this message out to the people. You can find me at Anders Varner because I'm Anders Varner. We are the Shrugged Collective at the Shrugged Collective. Get over to onetonchallenge.com, and we'll see you guys next Wednesday.